Sarah Martinez had never imagined that choosing between paying rent or buying ingredients for 3 more days of keeping honey and cinnamon alive would be easier than explaining to her mother why a Harvard MBA was face down on her cafe floor at 3:30 a.m. The antique brass register, a relic from the cafe's glory days in the 80s, sat open like a mouth gasping for air. Inside, $42.60. The stack of unpaid invoices beside it told a grimmer story. "Well, girl, looks like it's time to trade your barista apron for a McDonald's uniform," she muttered, the scent of yesterday's cinnamon rolls still lingering in the air, mocking her with memories of better days. The door chime jingled. Sarah's head snapped up. "We're closed," she called out, not bothering to look up from her financial death sentence. "Door's broken, but we're definitely closed." Silence. Then the sound of expensive Italian leather hitting hardwood. "What the hell?" Sarah vaulted over the counter, her worn sneakers squeaking against the floor. A man in a charcoal Tom Ford suit was sprawled between tables 3 and 4, unconscious. His briefcase had exploded open, scattering papers everywhere. "Sir? Sir?" She knelt beside him, checking his pulse, racing but steady. He smelled like expensive cologne and desperation, a combination she recognized from her own mirror lately. "When's the last time you ate something that wasn't caffeinated?" she asked the unconscious stranger, then immediately felt ridiculous for expecting an answer. His eyelids fluttered. "Easy, Wall Street. Don't move yet." Sarah cradled his head, noting the way his dark hair was perfectly styled even in unconsciousness. "You just face-planted in my cafe." "Time," he croaked, his voice carrying the kind of authority that probably made boardrooms tremble. 3:45 in the morning. "You know, prime cafe hours," Sarah said dryly. "Shit. Shit." He tried to sit up, but she pressed him back down. "Whoa there, Gordon Gecko. Stay horizontal until the world stops spinning. I have a presentation at 8 that determines whether Montgomery Tech survives or becomes a very expensive paperweight," he said, finally focusing on her face. "I haven't eaten in... I honestly can't remember when." "Montgomery Tech." Sarah blinked. "You're Alexander Montgomery? The guy who's supposedly running his daddy's empire into the ground?" His jaw tightened. "Charming. You read the Wall Street Journal's hit piece, I assume?" "I read the Tribune. Silver spoon tarnishes. Young CEO struggles to fill father's shoes." She winced at her own words. "Sorry, that was bitchy. But accurate." He managed to sit up, leaning against table 4's leg. "I'm exactly what they say I am. A trust fund baby who's destroying a century-old legacy." "Are you?" Sarah found herself studying his face. There was something raw there, hidden beneath the corporate armor. "Ask me in 4 hours when the board votes on whether to fire me." "Okay, but first, when did you last eat actual food? And coffee doesn't count." "Coffee absolutely should count. It's basically liquid productivity." "That's not how nutrition works, MBA boy." Sarah headed to her industrial espresso machine, a beautiful Italian beast that cost more than her car. "I'm making you something that won't require an IV drip to process. You don't need to... Listen, Montgomery." She fired up the machine, the familiar hiss of steam filling the silence. "You collapsed in my cafe. That makes you my problem until you can walk out of here without face-planting." "It's Alex," he said quietly. "Sarah. And you're getting fed whether your corporate pride likes it or not." She pulled shots with practiced precision, the rich aroma of single-origin beans filling the space. "So what's this presentation that's worth starving yourself over?" "New AI integration platform. Could revolutionize small business operations." His voice gained energy talking about it. "We're hemorrhaging clients to competitors, but this could change everything." "Hemorrhaging clients?" Sarah raised an eyebrow as she steamed milk to velvet perfection. "That's corporate speak for people are jumping ship, right?" "Essentially, yes, though I prefer strategic client redistribution to competitor portfolios." "Jesus, you people really do speak in code." She slid a perfect cappuccino across the table to him, the foam art forming a delicate rosetta. "Try this." Single origin Ethiopian beans, oat milk, just a touch of cinnamon. Alex took a sip and his eyes actually closed. This is incredible. How do you make it taste like this? Trade secret. Involves actual skill instead of pressing buttons on a Keurig. Sarah settled across from him with her own cup. So this AI thing, what makes it different from every other tech bro's world-changing algorithm? It learns from individual business patterns. A cafe like yours would have completely different needs than, say, a law firm. The AI adapts in real time. Sounds expensive. It's not about the money. Everything's about money when you're counting quarters to buy milk. Sarah gestured around the empty cafe. This place? My grandmother's dream, my mother's legacy, my financial nightmare. Great coffee doesn't pay rent in Chicago. Alex looked around the cafe properly for the first time, really seeing the mismatched vintage chairs, the hand-painted menu board, the photos of 3 generations of women behind the counter. How long have you been struggling? Define struggling. If you mean choosing between electricity and ingredients, about 6 months. If you mean realizing dreams don't come with business plans, about 2 years. What would it take to save it? Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. A miracle. Or about $15,000 and a customer base that doesn't think Starbucks is gourmet. Alex stared into his cappuccino, something shifting in his expression. What? Sarah asked. Nothing. Just... He looked up at her. What if I told you my AI platform could solve your customer problem? I'd say you're still oxygen deprived from hitting my floor. I'm serious. Small business optimization, customer pattern analysis, targeted local marketing. His voice grew stronger, more animated. Sarah, what if saving your cafe could help me save my company? The espresso machine hissed in the background as Sarah stared at him. Are you seriously trying to pitch me while sitting on my floor at 4 a.m.? Yes, Alex said without hesitation. And I think we might just save each other. Sarah set down her cup, the clink echoing in the quiet cafe. Montgomery, you might be crazier than I thought, but crazy enough that I'm actually listening. You want to turn my grandmother's cafe into your personal laboratory? Sarah wiped down the espresso machine for the 3rd time, a nervous habit that meant she was either furious or intrigued. Because that's what this sounds like, corporate guinea pig experimentation. Alex, now properly caffeinated and no longer resembling a walking zombie, had somehow convinced her to hear him out over fresh blueberry scones. The morning rush, all 12 customers of it, had come and gone, leaving them alone with the lingering scent of cinnamon and the weight of impossible decisions. It's not experimentation, it's partnership. He pulled out his laptop, the sleek device looking alien among her vintage decor. Look, my board thinks I'm too disconnected from real small businesses. They want proof the AI works in the trenches, not just on PowerPoint slides. And I'm the trench? You're the perfect beta test. Struggling cafe, loyal but limited customer base, clear operational inefficiencies. Hey! Sarah threw her damp towel at him. My operational inefficiencies have character. Alex caught the towel, grinning. Your character is why you're choosing between rent and ingredients. Ouch. Low blow, even for a corporate shark. Former corporate shark. Currently more like a corporate goldfish circling the drain. He opened his laptop. But here's the thing. If this works, really works, it could save us both. Sarah peered over his shoulder, immediately hit by his cologne mixed with the lingering Ethiopian roast. Focus, Martinez. What exactly does this involve? Smart inventory management, customer behavior prediction, targeted social media campaigns. His fingers flew over the keyboard with the confidence of someone who spoke fluent algorithm. The AI analyzes your sales patterns, weather data, local events, even social media sentiment to predict what you should stock and when. So basically a crystal ball that speaks in spreadsheets? Exactly. But also customer retention strategies, loyalty program optimization, and automated marketing that doesn't sound like it was written by robots. You get really sexy when you talk about data analytics. Alex's fingers froze over the keyboard. What? Heat crept up Sarah's neck. I mean, passionate. You get passionate about your work. It's refreshing to see someone who actually cares about what they're doing, as opposed to someone who inherited everything and screwed it up, as opposed to my ex-fiancé who thought synergy was a pickup line. Sarah settled into the chair across from him. So what's the catch? Because there's always a catch with you corporate types. No catch. Just... Alex hesitated. I need this to work. Not just for the company, but for me. If I can prove this AI actually helps real businesses, the board might let me keep my job long enough to save my father's legacy. And if it doesn't work, then we both go down in flames, but at least we'll have great coffee while we burn. Sarah laughed, despite herself. You know what? Screw it. Show me your fancy robot brain. Alex turned the laptop toward her. First, we input your current data. Sales, inventory, customer demographics. Demographics? You mean the fact that my average customer is either a college student with $2 or Mrs. Henderson, who pays in exact change and takes 40 minutes to order a black coffee? Mrs. Henderson sounds like a treasure. Mrs. Henderson once lectured me for 20 minutes about proper foam density. She's like having Gordon Ramsay as a regular, but with sensible shoes. Perfect. The AI loves quirky customer data. Alex pulled up a dashboard that looked like mission control for NASA. Now tell me about your busiest day last month. That's easy. October 15th. Sold out of everything by 2 p.m. What made it special? Sarah thought back. It was that weird warm day in the middle of fall. Everyone wanted iced drinks, but I was stocked for autumn comfort foods. Ran out of cold brew, had to improvise with espresso over ice, which actually created this amazing new drink that customers kept asking for. Bingo. Alex's eyes lit up as he typed. Weather correlation, inventory mismatch leading to innovation, customer demand for unlisted items. The AI can predict these patterns. It can predict when I accidentally create genius. It can predict when weather anomalies will create demand shifts. Next time there's an unexpected warm day, you'll be ready with cold brew and iced specialty drinks. Sarah watched numbers and graphs populate the screen. This is either brilliant or completely insane. Most brilliant things are. Alex clicked through more screens. But here's the really interesting part. Social media integration. When did you last post about the cafe? Never? I mean, I have accounts, but I don't really... Social media feels like shouting into the void. That's because you're not targeting the right void. Alex pulled up Instagram. Local food bloggers, coffee enthusiasts within a 3-mile radius, people who check in at similar businesses. The AI identifies your ideal customers and puts your content in front of them. Content? Like what? Pictures of my sad, empty cafe? Like pictures of that accidental cold brew creation, behind-the-scenes coffee preparation, your foam art, which, by the way, is incredible. You noticed my foam art? Hard to miss when it's better than most galleries. Alex showed her his phone. He'd somehow taken a photo of his Rosetta cappuccino. This is what people want to see. Authenticity, craftsmanship, story. Story? 3 generations of women pouring their hearts into this place. Your grandmother's recipes, your mother's dedication, your determination to keep it alive. That's not just coffee, Sarah. That's legacy. Something stirred in Sarah's chest. Hope, maybe, or recognition. You really think this could work? I think you're sitting on a gold mine and calling it a money pit. Alex leaned forward. But I need you to trust me. Complete access to your sales data, inventory records, customer information, full transparency. That's everything. My entire business laid bare for your algorithm to dissect. Your entire business analyzed by the most advanced predictive technology available, then optimized for success. Sarah stared at the screen, watching numbers dance across charts that might hold her future. What happens to my character? The things that make this place special? The AI doesn't change your character. It amplifies it. Make sure the right people discover what you've already created. And if your board fires you anyway? Alex's jaw tightened. Then at least I'll know I tried to build something meaningful instead of just maintaining something inherited. Sarah reached for her coffee, needing the familiar comfort of perfectly roasted beans and steamed milk. How long do we have? Board meeting is in 3 weeks. If I can show them measurable improvement in a real business, 3 weeks to save both our asses with robot coffee magic. Essentially, yes. Sarah set down her cup and extended her hand. Okay, Montgomery. Let's see if your fancy AI can handle the chaos that is honey and cinnamon. Alex shook her hand, his grip warm and surprisingly calloused for a CEO. Fair warning, this is going to get intense. Daily data reviews, strategy adjustments, probably a lot of late nights. Are you trying to scare me off? I'm trying to prepare you for the fact that we're about to spend a lot of time together. Is that a problem? Alex looked at her. Really looked. And Sarah felt something electric pass between them. No, he said quietly. I don't think it is. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text. Mrs. Henderson, will you have that new iced coffee drink tomorrow? Asking for a friend. She showed Alex the message. Well, your AI better work fast. Mrs. Henderson's friend is probably the entire senior center. Challenge accepted. Alex pulled up another screen. Welcome to the future, Sarah Martinez. Let's save your cafe and my company. And if we accidentally fall for each other in the process. Alex's fingers paused over the keyboard. Then I guess we'll have to add that to the algorithm too. You've got to be kidding me. Sarah stared at the tablet Alex had just handed her, displaying real-time analytics that looked like something from a sci-fi movie. Your robot brain wants me to compete against Java Giant? The corporate coffee Death Star that killed 3 local cafes last year? Alex, who'd spent the past week transforming her back office into mission control with laptops, cables, and enough tech to launch a satellite, looked genuinely excited. Not compete, dominate. The AI identified a perfect opportunity. Java Giant's grand opening event next Saturday. Winner gets featured in Chicago Tribune's weekend food section. Winner of what, exactly? Latte art competition. Best foam design wins citywide recognition, massive social media coverage, and… Alex consulted his phone. According to the algorithm, approximately 347% increase in local foot traffic. Your algorithm calculated that I should enter a pissing contest with $1 billion corporation. My algorithm calculated that you're a foam artist disguised as a struggling business owner. Alex pulled up Instagram on the tablet. Look at this. Sarah's jaw dropped. Her cafe's Instagram account, dormant for months, now had 2,947 followers and dozens of comments on photos she didn't remember taking. How did you? I've been documenting your morning routine. That Rosetta you made for Mrs. Henderson yesterday. Viral. The tulip design for the college kid who only had $3. 42 shares. Alex scrolled through perfectly lit photos of her hands creating foam art. Sarah, you're not just making coffee. You're creating edible sculptures. Edible sculptures that don't pay rent. Yet. But this competition changes everything. Alex opened a new screen showing Java Giant's social media. Look at their latte art. Cookie-cutter hearts and basic leaves. Mass-produced mediocrity. Sarah studied the images. They're not terrible. They're corporate, safe, boring. Alex turned the tablet toward her. Now look at yours. Her breath caught. He'd somehow captured her morning routine like a documentary. The careful pour, the concentrated expression, the final flourish that turned steamed milk into art. She looked professional, passionate, like someone who belonged in a food magazine. I can't compete with their equipment. They probably have machines that cost more than my entire cafe. Equipment doesn't create art. Artists do. Alex closed the laptop. Besides, the AI identified their weakness. No soul, all flash, no substance. You You're pure substance. Substance doesn't win competitions, Alex. Technique does. Consistency. Professional training. You mean like the professional training that taught you to make Mrs. Henderson's impossible half-calf, oat milk, extra hot, no foam, light foam cappuccino that somehow makes perfect sense? Sarah laughed despite herself. That's different. Mrs. Henderson is a customer whose completely illogical order you've perfected through pure skill and patience. If you can make Mrs. Henderson happy, you can demolish some corporate barista who learned latte art from a YouTube tutorial. What if I freeze up? What if I embarrass myself in front of half of Chicago? Alex stepped closer, his voice softer. What if you don't? What if you walk in there and show them what real coffee artistry looks like? Easy for you to say. If I lose, I'm just another failed cafe owner. If you lose this bet, this isn't about me. Bullshit. Sarah crossed her arms. Your board meeting is Monday. This competition is Saturday. You need a win just as much as I do. Alex ran his hand through his hair. A gesture she'd learned meant he was about to admit something he didn't want to. Okay, yes. If you lose, my AI looks like expensive nonsense that can't even help a single cafe. If you win, your fancy algorithm gets credit for turning a nobody into a champion. My fancy algorithm gets credit for recognizing what was already there. Alex met her eyes. Sarah, I'm not betting on the AI. I'm betting on you. That's either really sweet or incredibly stupid. Probably both. Alex grinned. So what do you say? Ready to show Java Giant what actual coffee craftsmanship looks like? Sarah looked around her cafe, the mismatched chairs her grandmother had collected, the hand-painted menu board her mother had created, the photos documenting 3 generations of women who'd refused to give up on their dreams. What's the prize again? Tribune feature, social media coverage, and according to the AI's projections, enough new customers to cover your rent for the next 6 months. And if I lose? Then we figure out plan B. There's a plan B? There's always a plan B. But plan A involves you destroying the competition with a foam masterpiece that makes grown adults weep with coffee joy. Sarah grabbed her apron from behind the counter. Okay, Montgomery, but I have conditions. Name them. First, if I'm doing this, I'm doing it my way. No corporate bullshit, no fake smiles, no pretending to be something I'm not. Agreed. Second, when I win, and I'm saying when because your confidence is apparently contagious, you owe me dinner at somewhere that doesn't serve coffee. Deal. Though technically that sounds like a reward for me. Third. Sarah tied her apron strings, her hands steadying. Promise me that whatever happens Saturday, win or lose, you won't disappear back to your ivory tower and pretend this never happened. Alex's expression grew serious. Sarah, after this week, after seeing what you've built here, I couldn't forget this place if I tried. Good. Because Mrs. Henderson asked me yesterday if you were my boyfriend, and I may have told her you were my business consultant with excellent bone structure. Excellent bone structure? She's 83. She notices these things. Sarah pulled out her phone. Now show me this competition registration, because apparently I'm about to declare war on corporate coffee. Alex pulled up the Java Giant website. Registration closes tonight. Entry fee is $50. $50 I don't have. Entry fee covered by Montgomery Tech's Small Business Development Fund. You have a small business development fund? As of 10 minutes ago, yes. Sarah stared at him. You created a fund just to pay my entry fee. I created a fund to invest in promising local businesses, showing innovative growth potential. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me, and it was a corporate tax write-off. Romance and good business aren't mutually exclusive. Sarah typed her information into the registration form, her fingers trembling slightly. Okay, it's done. Sarah Martinez of Honey and Cinnamon versus the Java Giant Empire. David versus Goliath, but with more caffeine. And better foam art. Alex? Yeah? What if David loses this time? Alex stepped behind her, his hands covering hers on the tablet. Then David gets back up, makes another perfect cappuccino, and reminds everyone why small businesses with big hearts always win in the end. Even if they don't win competitions? Especially then. Alex squeezed her hands gently. Besides, I've seen your foam art. Java Giant doesn't stand a chance. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Henderson. Tell your business consultant with excellent bone structure that my book club wants to place a catering order for next Thursday. 24 cappuccinos with extra foam art. We're feeling fancy. Sarah showed Alex the message. Well, looks like your AI's first success story just got herself a new customer base. Mrs. Henderson has a book club? Mrs. Henderson has a book club, a bridge club, a gardening club, and what she calls a wine appreciation society. If I win this competition, I'm pretty sure she's going to single-handedly save my business. When you win this competition, Alex corrected. When I win this competition, Sarah repeated, surprised by how much she believed it. Holy shit, I'm actually doing this. We're doing this. Partners, remember? Partners. Sarah turned in his arms, suddenly very aware of how close they were standing. Alex? Yeah? If this works, if the competition and the AI and everything actually saves both our asses, then we'll figure out what comes next. What if what comes next is complicated? The best things usually are. Sarah's timer went off. Time to prep for the afternoon rush. But for the first time in months, she wasn't dreading it. She was actually excited to see what tomorrow would bring. Even if tomorrow involved going to war with a corporate coffee giant armed with nothing but passion, skill, and an algorithm that believed in impossible things. Your hands are shaking. Alex watched Sarah attempt her 15th practice latte of the evening. The cafe closed around them like a cocoon of warm light and coffee-scented air. When's the last time you slept? Sleep is for people who aren't entering suicide missions disguised as latte competitions. Sarah dumped another failed attempt down the drain, the swan she'd tried to create looking more like a caffeinated duck having an existential crisis. I used to be able to do this with my eyes closed. That was before you had an audience of food critics and corporate executives analyzing your every pore. Alex moved behind her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his chest. You're overthinking it. I'm thinking exactly the right amount. Which is complete panic mixed with professional terror. Sarah started steaming milk again, the familiar hiss filling the silence between them. What if I freeze up tomorrow? What if my hands shake and I pour foam soup instead of art? Then you'll be human. Revolutionary concept in corporate competitions. Humans don't win against Java Giant. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. Machines do. Perfect, consistent, corporate machines that don't have feelings or fears or... Sarah. Alex's hands covered hers on the steam wand, steadying the tremor she hadn't realized had started. Look at me. She turned in the circle of his arms, suddenly very aware that they'd been practically living in each other's pockets for the past week. His tie was loosened, his sleeves rolled up, and there was a small coffee stain on his expensive shirt that he hadn't bothered to clean. When I was 12, Alex said quietly, my father brought me to my first board meeting. Told me I needed to understand the family business. I sat in that conference room for 3 hours, listening to men in suits discuss quarterly projections and market penetration strategies, and I had no idea what any of it meant. Alex, let me finish. After the meeting, my father asked me what I learned. I told him I learned that being successful meant speaking a language that made everyone else feel stupid. Alex's thumb traced across her knuckles. He laughed and said I'd missed the point entirely. What was the point? The point was that all those men in suits, all their fancy degrees and corporate expertise, they were just people trying not to screw up something that mattered to them. Alex met her eyes. Just like you are right now. Sarah felt something loosen in her chest. Were you trying to make me feel better or worse about tomorrow? I was trying to remind you that you're not competing against Java Giant. You're showing them what passion looks like when it's not filtered through focus groups and market research. What if passion isn't enough? Then we'll deal with that on Sunday. But right now, tonight, I want to see you make a latte the way you did that first morning. No pressure, no competition, just you and the coffee. Sarah nodded, turning back to the machine. This time, instead of thinking about judges and cameras and corporate executives, she thought about Mrs. Henderson's smile when she nailed the impossible half-calf order. She thought about the college student who always left exact change, but never forgot to say thank you. She thought about her grandmother's hands, teaching her that coffee wasn't just a drink. It was a conversation between creator and consumer. The milk steamed to perfect microfoam. The espresso pulled golden and rich. And when she poured, her hand moved with muscle memory older than her fears. Oh. Alex's voice was soft, almost reverent. Sarah looked down at her creation. A perfect rosetta, delicate and complex. The kind of foam art that made people stop talking and just stare. I forgot, she whispered. Forgot what? I forgot that I'm actually good at this. Sarah set the cup down carefully, like it contained something precious. I've been so focused on failing that I forgot I spent 15 years learning how to succeed. And now? Now I remember why I fight for this place every day. Sarah turned to face him fully. Alex, what happens after tomorrow? Win or lose, your board meeting is Monday. You'll go back to your corporate world, and You'll what? I don't know. Keep making coffee, I guess. Try to figure out how to turn viral Instagram posts into actual customers who pay actual money. Alex was quiet for a long moment, his eyes moving over her face like he was memorizing something. What if I told you I've been thinking about that? About my customer conversion rates? About not going back? Alex's voice was barely above a whisper. About what would happen if I took early retirement from the CEO game and invested in something that actually matters. Sarah's heart stuttered. Like what? Like a cafe that makes the best coffee in Chicago and needs a business partner who knows how to turn passion into profit. Alex, you can't be serious. You're talking about walking away from a 100-year-old company to… What? Become a barista? I'm talking about walking away from a legacy that never felt like mine to build something that does. Alex stepped closer. I've spent 2 years trying to save my father's dream. What if it's time to start building my own? What about Montgomery Tech? Your family's legacy? My family's legacy is innovation and excellence. Maybe it's time to innovate beyond corporate boardrooms. Alex's hands found her waist, anchoring them both. Sarah, I've learned more about business in this cafe than I did in 4 years at Harvard. That's the sleep deprivation talking. That's clarity talking. For the first time in my life, I wake up excited about work. Not anxious, not obligated, excited. Alex's voice grew stronger. I wake up excited to see what you've created, what problems we'll solve together, what impossible thing we'll make possible. What are you saying? I'm saying that win or lose tomorrow. I want to find out what happens when a washed-up CEO and a brilliant barista stop pretending this is just business. Sarah's breath caught. Alex, I know it's crazy. I know it's impractical, and probably financial suicide, and definitely not what either of us planned. Sarah silenced him by rising on her toes and pressing her lips to his. He tasted like coffee and possibility, like every risk worth taking. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against his. For the record, she whispered, I've been hoping you'd say something that's stupid and romantic for days. Stupid and romantic is kind of my specialty lately. Good thing I have a weakness for reformed corporate sharks with excellent bone structure. Mrs. Henderson really said that? Mrs. Henderson has been trying to set me up with her grandson for months. She took one look at you and declared him insufficient for a woman of my caliber. I like Mrs. Henderson. Mrs. Henderson likes you too. She also thinks you should wear less expensive suits because they make the other customers nervous. Alex laughed, the sound rich and genuine. Noted. Anything else I should know about Mrs. Henderson's opinions? She thinks we should get married and name our first child after her. Her name is Henderson, Her name is Prudence. Prudence Montgomery has a nice ring to it. Sarah pulled back to stare at him. Did you just... Too fast? Way too fast. Sarah grinned. Ask me again after I demolish Java Giant tomorrow. Deal. But Sarah? Yeah? Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever happens Monday with the board, I meant what I said. I'm not going anywhere. Sarah kissed him again, softer this time, tasting the promise on his lips. Good. Because I have a feeling Prudence Montgomery is going to need both her parents to be excellent at latte art. Both parents? You don't think I'm teaching you foam art just for fun, do you? If you're going to be my business partner, you better learn the difference between a rosetta and a tulip. This is going to be interesting. Montgomery, you have no idea. Outside, Chicago hummed with late-night energy, but inside Honey and Cinnamon, two people who'd found something worth fighting for practiced latte art until dawn, surrounded by the scent of possibility and the sound of steamed dreams coming true. Sarah Martinez, representing Honey and Cinnamon Cafe. You have 15 minutes to create your signature latte art piece. The theme is Chicago Spirit, and judging begins now. Sarah's hands should have been steady. After a week of practice, a night of confessions, and Alex's encouraging smile from the audience, she should have felt confident. Instead, she felt like she was about to throw up on live television. The Java Giant Arena, because of course they'd rented out Navy Pier's Exposition Center, buzzed with cameras, food bloggers, and what appeared to be half of Chicago's coffee elite. Sarah's simple setup looked pathetically amateur next to Java Giant's chrome and brass monstrosity that probably cost more than her annual rent. You've got this, she whispered to herself, reaching for the espresso portafilter. Just you and the coffee. No pressure, no cameras, no... Sarah Martinez? A woman with a press badge appeared beside her station. Jennifer Walsh, Chicago Tribune. Quick question before you start. Is it true you're dating Alexander Montgomery, the CEO whose company is being investigated for financial irregularities? Sarah's hand froze on the espresso machine. I'm sorry, what? The SEC investigation announced this morning? Montgomery Tech's allegedly been inflating revenue projections to avoid bankruptcy? Jennifer's recorder was inches from Sarah's face. Sources say you two have been seen together frequently this week. Care to comment on whether this competition is just a publicity stunt to distract from his company's legal troubles? The exposition center suddenly felt like it was spinning. Sarah looked toward the audience, finding Alex's face in the crowd. He was on his phone, his expression grim, and as she watched, he stood up and walked toward the exit. I don't know anything about an investigation, Sarah managed. But you are romantically involved with Mr. Montgomery? The competition is starting, Sarah said weakly, turning back to her machine. But her hands were shaking now, really shaking, and the simple act of locking the portafilter felt like trying to perform surgery with oven mitts. 15 minutes. She had 15 minutes to create something beautiful, while her world imploded in real time. Sarah pulled the first shot. It was under-extracted, bitter, useless. She dumped it and tried again, acutely aware of the cameras capturing every mistake. The second shot was better, but her milk steaming was all wrong. Too hot, too foamy, more like a cappuccino catastrophe than microfoam art. Having some technical difficulties, Miss Martinez? The Java Giant representative, a perfectly polished woman named Madison, was creating what looked like a literal architectural masterpiece in foam. Sometimes the pressure gets to independent operators. No shame in keeping it simple. I'm fine, Sarah lied, dumping another failed attempt down the drain. 8 minutes left, and she hadn't produced anything remotely competition-worthy. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alex. Had to leave. Emergency board meeting. You've got this. Trust yourself. Sarah stared at the message, feeling something cold settle in her stomach. He'd left. In the middle of her competition, with cameras rolling and her entire future on the line, he'd just left. 7 minutes remaining. Sarah closed her eyes, trying to find the calm center she'd discovered last night in Alex's arms. but all she could hear was Jennifer Walsh's voice. Financial irregularities, publicity stunt, legal troubles. Had this whole week been fake? The partnership, the AI analytics, the late-night conversations. Was it all just Alex trying to distract from his company's problems? Was she just another data point in his survival strategy? 6 minutes. You know, Madison said conversationally as she added perfect detail to her foam cityscape. I heard Java Giant is always looking for talented baristas. We offer full benefits, 401k matching, corporate training programs. I'm not interested, Sarah snapped, but her concentration was completely shot. The milk she was steaming had gone from microfoam to hot froth, and her espresso was pulling too fast because her grind was all wrong. 5 minutes. Remember, judges are looking for technical skill, artistic creativity, and representation of Chicago spirit. Chicago spirit. Sarah almost laughed. What was more Chicago than getting screwed over by someone you trusted? What was more representative of this city than watching your dreams get demolished by people with more money and better lawyers? She looked at her sad collection of failed attempts, then at Madison's Instagram perfect creation, then at the cameras documenting her very public humiliation. 4 minutes remaining. Sarah's phone buzzed again. This time it was Mrs. Henderson. Watching on Channel 7 with the book club. Show them what Martinez women are made of. Martinez women. Sarah thought about her grandmother, who'd started this cafe with nothing but determination and a coffee recipe. She thought about her mother, who'd worked 2 jobs to keep it running during the recession. She thought about every morning she'd opened these doors, every customer she'd served, every perfect cup she'd created, not because it was easy, but because it mattered. Alex was gone. The investigation might be real. This whole week might have been an elaborate corporate manipulation, but her coffee was still perfect. 3 minutes. Sarah dumped everything she'd made and started over. This time, she didn't think about cameras or competitions or SEC's investigations. She thought about Mrs. Henderson's impossible order, about the college student who always said thank you, about every person who'd ever walked into Honey and Cinnamon looking for something warm and real in a cold corporate world. The espresso pulled golden and rich, the milk steamed to silk perfection. And when she poured, her hand moved with 15 years of muscle memory and 3 generations of stubborn Martinez determination. 2 minutes. The design that emerged wasn't the Chicago skyline she'd planned. It wasn't the intricate Rosetta she'd practiced. Instead, it was something entirely her own, a phoenix rising from waves of foam, delicate wings spread wide, every line speaking of resilience and rebirth. 1 minute, final touches only. Sarah added the last detail, a small cinnamon dusting that gave the phoenix's wings depth and warmth. She stepped back, breathing hard, looking at what she'd created. It was beautiful. More than beautiful. It was honest. Time! Step away from your stations! The judges moved between the competitors, tasting and photographing. When they reached Sarah's station, the head judge, a renowned food critic from Food and Wine, stopped mid-sip. This is... He paused, taking another taste. This is exceptional. The flavor profile is complex but balanced, and the art. He photographed the phoenix from 3 different angles. What inspired this design? Sarah looked toward the empty spot where Alex had been sitting, then back at her creation. Chicago spirit, she said simply. Getting knocked down and getting back up. Flying despite everything trying to keep you grounded. The judge nodded, making notes. And the cinnamon element? It's my signature. Something that makes even the most beautiful things taste like home. As the judges moved on to Madison's architectural wonder, Sarah's phone exploded with notifications. Her Instagram was blowing up, her cafe's Yelp page was getting dozens of reviews, and she had 17 missed calls. But all she could think about was Alex's empty chair and the question that felt like acid in her throat. Had any of it been real? Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice boomed across the exposition center. While our judges deliberate, Let's hear from today's competitors. Sarah watched Madison give a polished interview about Java Giant's commitment to coffee excellence and community engagement. Professional, corporate, perfect. When the microphone reached Sarah, she looked directly into the camera. "I'm Sarah Martinez from Honey and Cinnamon Cafe. I've been making coffee for 15 years, and today I learned something important." She paused, finding strength in her grandmother's recipe and her mother's determination. Great coffee isn't about perfect equipment or corporate backing. It's about showing up every day and putting your heart into something that matters, even when everything else falls apart. Any final thoughts as we await the judge's decision? Sarah looked at her phoenix, rising beautiful and defiant from its foam wings. Yeah, Chicago spirit isn't about never falling down. It's about how gracefully you get back up. The camera lingered on her face, and Sarah realized that win or lose, she'd already said everything that mattered, even if the person she'd most wanted to hear it had already walked away. And the winner of Chicago's first annual Latte Art Championship is... The head judge paused for dramatic effect while Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. Sarah Martinez of Honey and Cinnamon Cafe for her extraordinary Chicago Phoenix design and exceptional flavor profile. The exposition center erupted in applause, but Sarah barely heard it. She'd won. She'd actually won. The Phoenix had risen, just like she'd intended, and somehow her broken heart had created something beautiful enough to defeat corporate perfection. Sarah! Sarah! Reporters swarmed her station as photographers captured her stunned expression. How does it feel to beat Java Giant? What's next for Honey and Cinnamon? Any comment on the Montgomery Tech investigation? Sarah stared at the golden trophy shaped like a coffee cup, trying to process that this was real. I just wanted to make good coffee. Everything else. Sarah Martinez. Mrs. Henderson's voice cut through the chaos like a foghorn. The entire book club had apparently descended upon Navy Pier, led by an 83-year-old woman wielding her cane like a sword. Move aside, you vultures. Give the girl some air. Mrs. Henderson? Sarah blinked, suddenly surrounded by elderly women offering congratulations and homemade cookies. How did you... Channel 7 interviewed us during the commercial break. I told them you were going to win because Martinez women don't know how to quit. Mrs. Henderson squeezed Sarah's hand. Your grandmother would be so proud, dear. We all placed bets on you, added Eleanor from the gardening club. Prudence here won $40. Prudence? Sarah looked at Mrs. Henderson in confusion. My first name, dear. I've been dropping hints about it all week. Mrs. Henderson winked. Where's that business consultant with excellent bone structure? He missed quite a show. Sarah's heart clenched. He had to leave. Business emergency. Nonsense. That boy's been staring at you like you hung the moon all week. Whatever emergency dragged him away must be... Sarah. Alex's voice cut through the crowd, and suddenly he was there, pushing through reporters and senior citizens with equal determination. His suit was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, and he looked like he'd run the entire way from downtown. Alex? Sarah's voice came out smaller than she intended. I thought you'd left. I did. I had to. He reached her station, breathing hard. Sarah, I can explain everything. Can you? The hurt she'd been suppressing all afternoon rose to the surface. Can you explain why the SEC is investigating your company? Can you explain why you conveniently forgot to mention that little detail? Can you explain why you left me to deal with reporters asking if our entire relationship was a publicity stunt? The crowd around them had gone silent, sensing drama better than any reality TV show. Yes, Alex said simply. I can explain all of it, but first... He looked at the trophy in her hands, and his face broke into the most genuine smile she'd ever seen. You won. I won. You absolutely destroyed them. That Phoenix design. Alex shook his head in amazement. Sarah, it was perfect. You were perfect. Don't. Sarah stepped back, clutching the trophy. Don't you dare stand there and act proud when you weren't even here to see it happen. I was watching. Every second. Alex pulled out his phone, showing her a live stream of the competition. Emergency board meeting, but I never stopped watching. And when you gave that speech about Chicago spirit, his voice cracked slightly. I've never been more proud of anyone in my life. Then why did you leave? Alex looked around at the crowd of reporters, book club members, and curious onlookers. Can we talk privately? Please? I promise I'll explain everything. Mrs. Henderson stepped forward. Young man, whatever you have to say to Sarah, you can say in front of us. We're her people. Mrs. Henderson, Sarah started. No, she's right. Alex turned to address the entire group. You want to know about the SEC investigation? Here's the truth. 6 months ago, I discovered my CFO had been cooking the books for years. Revenue inflation, hidden debts, fraudulent investor reports. The works. A murmur ran through the crowd. Several reporters began taking notes. I could have covered it up, Alex continued. Found a scapegoat, shuffled some numbers, protected the family name. Instead, I called the SEC myself. Turned over every document, cooperated fully with their investigation, and spent the last 6 months trying to clean up a mess I didn't make but inherited anyway. Why? Asked Jennifer Walsh, her recorder held high. Why destroy your own company's reputation? Because reputation built on lies isn't worth protecting. Alex's eyes found Sarah's. Someone recently taught me that authenticity matters more than perfection. That doing the right thing is more important than protecting your image. Sarah felt her anger wavering. The emergency board meeting? They fired me. Alex's laugh was bitter but not defeated. Effective immediately. Voted to replace me with someone who will handle the investigation more diplomatically. Oh, Alex. Sarah's heart clenched. Best thing that ever happened to me. Alex stepped closer. Sarah, I spent 2 years trying to save a company that was already dead. But this week, watching you fight for something real, something honest. He gestured around the cafe setup. This is what business should be. Passion, craft, community. Not stock prices and quarterly projections. What are you saying? I'm saying that offer I made last night, about becoming business partners, it's still on the table. Except now, instead of bringing corporate expertise and family money, I'm bringing unemployment benefits and a really good understanding of how not to run a business. Mrs. Henderson snorted. Finally talking sense. Alex, you can't be serious. You just lost everything. I lost a job that was killing me slowly, and a company that stopped being mine the day it started living lies. Alex reached for her hands, not caring that dozens of people were watching. But I found something worth building, someone worth building it with.